morning, everyone. I know that perhaps we need some more sleep, but yeah, uh, today is my last talk, and I will share with Kamal, of course. That's why I bring him here. So, uh, more on dengue disease modeling for part A. So I will divide into three subsection, that is within house infection, how we model within house infection in dengue virus with infusion treatment, and also first and then second infection. Then we will incorporate the climate factor to be an early warning system using precipitation, humidity, and also temperature. And then more on dengue modeling with climate dependency. And then the part B will be delivered by Kamal, introduce a simple idea and extension of early warning system, and also what we do with dengue data Philippines with a different approach rather than using susceptible infection recovery house compartment. Then we go to within house infection. Uh, this is the video of virus infection.
One of the better understood virus life cycles is phage, a virus which attacks bacteria cells. The phage begins its assault by attaching itself to the cell wall attached to a certain type of bacteria. Next, the phage breaks down the cell wall, and the nucleic acid from this capsule is injected through the hollow tail into the cell. The viral nucleic acid uses the cell's enzymes and organelles to replicate new viral parts. The parts are assembled into new virus particles called virions. Finally, the new phages release an enzyme which weakens the cell wall, and the host cell bursts, releasing
Produce a million of another virus. So we have this kind of set of differential equation. We have S, so should be like this, for susceptible cell. Then we assume for monocyte and macrophage. Then I for infected cell. Susceptible cell interact with free virus, this V4 free virus, then produce lysis with the K parameters, then introduce a new million virus, then our response immune will be taking place. This is a natural killer subset of immune response, and also every cell have a survival rate of each stage. So this is a very simple modeling, but yeah, we use this to kind of introduce infusion supply.
one of the better understood.
This is the result of our compartment model. Looks very trivial. You know, the A is a contact rate between susceptible cell with free virus. So the highest the numbers of A should be the highest production of infected cell and also free virus. That's kind of trivial. But we developed this model to the procedure of infusion. You know that dengue is a kind of virus disease. So there is no specific treatment, there is no specific medication, infusion supply, or in the case of dengue shock syndrome, this just transfused by blood. So this is the information from WHO in 2003 about the relation between the weight and also infused volume for dengue hemorrhagic fever patient in 24 hours in milliliter. So we have this information. Then we develop our previous diagram with some kind of treatment function following the hematocrit compartment. Then with control constant, so we choose some step function to propose an infusion strategy to the HF patients by simulation. So we have those four previous, the same, and then we introduce hematocrit dynamic using the rho is for the production of the red blood cell, and then this is the interaction between free virus and response immune, and this is the survival rate of plasma cell, and this is our infusion supply effect. So the U, the control of the volume, it derived by X represent infusion fluid volume that is given every day in 24 hours. So we do some kind of simple simulation using this kind of step function. For example, T represent the hour. So from 0 to in 1 hour, this is supplied by 2,200 milliliters. Then UT, it should be like this. This is a delta of platelets increase in terms of X. Then we have in more or less 7 hours, you should drink this much of water. So we also have observation data from Providence Hospital that it's possible to do. Then based on this result, we have the green one is the hematocrit without infusion supply, and the blue one is hematocrit with infusion supply. So we can see here, we have a very fast response for the increases of hematocrit, but also the fast response to decrease. So this is shorter the length of infection if we give the right infusion supply rather than an infusion supply. So this kind of qualitative study based on our simulation, then in the application form, the doctor will justify it by their standard operation. So this is collaboration work by our graduate students with Nico Stollenwerk and also Mayra Aguiar within host model for the first and secondary dengue infection. So as I mentioned in the second talk, that the second infection could be very severe rather than one infection. So we have some difference for observer in dengue infection. The primary dengue infection is usually asymptomatic, and mild disease manifestation, and also the clinical response to exposure to a heterologous or different dengue serotype is complex. So this leading to severe disease because of in dengue we have ADE, advanced dependence, enhanced dependent, advanced enhanced dependent for dengue secondary infection. So based on Halstead in 2014, they also state that the IgM, usually dengue routine diagnosis using ELISA, IgM and IgG antibody type. So in the primary dengue infection, the IgM antibody is produced more quickly and higher levels than IgG antibody type. And the reverse is true in secondary dengue infection. So we use this kind of assumption to produce model, and yeah, conferring lifelong protective immunity against a specific serotype, the IgG antibody is able to cross-react with heterologous dengue serotype. So it causes severe dengue infection. So based on this, and also some model previous, including what we done in 2009, we produce three different type of within house infection. The first, primary infection for dengue. The second, secondary infection but with the same serotype virus. And the third, the secondary infection with different serotype. So we had this kind of the primary infection model. So you can see here, this first column is exactly like the same with the previous video. We have a targeted cell as monocyte or macrophage. Then it will be produce million of virus. This is viral replication. Then the second stage is antigen presentation and antibody production. You know, for the first infection, IgM will be the first response, then IgG the second response. So this one is dengue IgM complex and also dengue IgG complex. They are interact in the level of protein or DNA and then clearing the infection. This is for the primary infection scenario. So we have this set of differential equation to represent those kind of condition, and they call it minimalistic modeling. So just using differential equation. Then the second model, the secondary infection, but with the same serotype. So the first stage, it will be the same, but you can see the second stage. In the second stage, the IgG taking place, the first, then IgM. So when you experience the secondary infection, but the same serotype, it will be get the more faster clearing the infection rather than different serotype for secondary infection. And what happens from the secondary infection with the same serotype? We just put some virulence in this compartment. But when we deal with the more complex situation, this is the secondary infection with different serotype of virus. So we have two replication that we'll call advanced dependent enhancement. So we have this viral replication at the previous, then IgG first taking place, following by IgM. But in the ADE level, we have the more complex situation, enhancements of viral load leading to hemorrhagic system. So sometimes the patient will be experienced by hemorrhagic system in this stage. And then it is not easy to reach the clearing of infection because perhaps they need some blood infusion. So this is the secondary infection with different serotype of the model, and the difference comes from the susceptible, dynamic of susceptible, dynamic on infected cell, and also the complex replication of the virus. So this is also qualitative study, but it will be important to experience the imperfect of the vaccine. So this is the result. This is the parameter, sorry. This is the set of parameters. We only have the less literature for the simulation, less the estimated number of parameters. Then the result looks similar but different in the peak. So the worst case should come from the secondary infection with different serotype of virus. So yeah, this is the primary infection. This is secondary infection, but with the same serotype. And the last is for the secondary infection with the different serotype. And also the result of the IgG, IgM for every variable that we have in the previous equation. So we have the highest viral load for secondary infection with different serotype, and also higher IgG for secondary infection with different serotype, and all of the same consistent result for the secondary infection with different serotype. So why it can be lead to our study to imperfect vaccination scenarios. So this is the within-house simulation. Relatively hard to do because the data is still a mystery because inside in our body. But at least we can do something to give scientific backup to our colleague in health department. Then we go to the climate factor. This supporting slide comes from my colleague from Climate Agency in Indonesia. This is how we develop a very simple early model of dengue transmission. He motivated us to give a very simple equation that he can running ensemble in the climate modeling. So he asking us to not using differential equation solution because it will be hard to execute the program into their climate model. So this is the story. I think you already know. The climate control on dengue transmission. I mean, dengue is vector-borne disease, so the life cycle of on mosquito already impacted by the climate. So in order to climate, we can see the heat map and also the what is it? Precipitation, humidity, and etc. Then this is the map for Atlas of Health and Climate, WMO and WHO in 2012. We have a very close relation with the climate. So why dengue cases will be some important spot for them to picture the relationship about the health and climate. So we try to modeling the vector density and also the dengue transmission within host and also among population. So this is climate dependency of the life cycle of mosquito, of course. Then this is the data. This is Jakarta data. The first, we introduce our early warning system using Jakarta data from 2010 up to 2015. And this is the accumulative case. And if we decompose to 5 Jakarta, we have this one, rather similar. And those one. And they do some statistical approach and they have significant at like 2 for, I think, monthly data. So the number 2 is quite important in our early warning system. And this is the framework. We have the historical data of dengue. So we create some kind of historical function of dengue that affect by the climate. This is the error of our model. Then the new one, the prediction, should be the dengue history and climate factor plus some bias of the climate modeling. Then we also still error in our model. So kind of, yeah, this is not exact prediction. It's just, yeah, we just giving an information, and we didn't push the stakeholder to choose, but only give them some kind of information, because this is only a prediction, and there is no 100% prediction will be right, but at least since 2017 up to now, they still use our work, and we renew the model, and we also have a discussion to measure the outcomes and also the output every year with this model. So yeah, so far we still okay with this. And so we choose relative humidity because more predictable rather than precipitation, because you know the precipitation have a high temporal and spatial variability. So we try to make relative humidity as one of climate factors in our prediction. Then this is the some kind of model validation for their perspective. They count the lead time. So the lead 0 should be the real data. The lead 1 is time reference 1 time ahead. The lead 2 is the 2 times ahead, and etc. This is 5 part of Jakarta. So one is, yeah, this one, West Jakarta, East Jakarta, and the South, North Jakarta, and Central Jakarta. We have 5 different area. This is lead 1. Of course, the blue one is the model, the black one is the data. So everything's look fine in the lead 1. But you can see in the lead 2, some variations happens. So for example, in this one, this is lower than the real data, but the rest is still, yeah, okay. And also that one in the lead 2, yeah. And from their perspective, this is still okay. How about the lead 3? Yeah, you can see more bad prediction because we are already in the lead 2. And this is the lead 4, of course. And yeah, that's normal. So yeah, lead 1 is the best. And we also make a prediction based on the incident rate per 100,000 population on those 5 area. And we also count the lead. So this is the lead 1, and this is the lead 2, lead 3, worse. I think lead 4 is the worst. Yeah. So we represent our result in choropleth map. We have 3 different type of warning scenario, because the health department didn't want some good map with the smooth scale. For example, they just want red, yellow, and green. So everybody in the field can read this result. So in our opinion, this map should be very nice if we can see some kind of mass gradient or something, but they don't want it. They just want 3 kind of this type. So red for dangers, yellow for alert, and green for safe. So for example, they can see some kinds of color for their region, then execute some prevention steps. So, and this climate agency already have some set of supporting climate. So they put only for Jakarta, for our dengue early warning system, but they already have for the whole nation for the supporting information of climate. So this is kind of our result. We have two kind of the map, one for relative humidity and the second for dengue incidents. So the stakeholder should be read both of map and then let them decide. So we don't push them to decide something, but just give an information and the decision should be comes from them. So yeah, we are hiding in the this kind of argumentation. So yeah, uh, the interesting thing that if we plot in the background, it should be the relative humidity, and this black line is the dengue data. You can see in the background, the orange one, it should be relative humidity greater than 75%. So you can see every peak in the data will have a orange background. So many of them have the orange background. So that's relatively informative because we depend also on relative humidity. So our early warning system based on relative humidity and also incidence rate. So this easy to see. And we also find the fact that we have some kind of climate phenomena like La Nina event where relative humidity is quite high. So if you have uh, the highest data, the highest peak, this is can be caused by La Nina events in 2016. I think all of the Asia region have the peak of dengue cases, but in our region it's also happened in 2010. So yeah, it's not really good, but in 2016 it's a very bold peak in all of the area. And then uh, based on that, they the one is the ensemble mean of the relative humidity, and you can see the dash red is 75% of relative humidity. All of the ensemble mean should be placed in, sorry, above 27%. Yeah, in this case, in some case. And then from this exploration, uh, yeah, this one, the La Nina event, we have uh, the ensemble mean always higher than 75% in each pink background, the La Nina event. So, so yeah, we propose this kind of climate match prediction for dengue cases when relative humidity above 75% in each area of Jakarta. Then we also have differently time. You can see in the every region, if we propose some early warning system, it will be better we say danger than safe rather than otherwise. We say safe but danger. So you can see for this lead one, uh, the safe ones only for this area, but yeah, it consistent safe until lead 5, and this red area will be orange, red, orange, red, and also consistent danger. So the government can be put their effort in this area, for example. Yeah, and the inconsistent followed by this one. This is orange, then green, then orange. It can be dangerous. Green, then orange. But the first early warning should be orange. Yeah. Uh, we just put this information and we don't push any health department to make a decision. So because it will be very dangerous for us. Yeah. And this is the result. I mean, like this. This is in the our climate agency web. I'm sorry, in should be in Indonesia, and they are updated every month. The information of relative humidity and also the incident rate for each area. And their sub district look this updating information, then they execute based on this information. And we have some kind of intellectual property right for those things. The first for the climate agency. In the middle is for our uh, computer program, and this is for COVID different story. So we have this kind of graphical user interface using MATLAB, and we already translate to R. So they just load the data, then find the autocorrelation, PACF, ACF, and then they choose the best model from our different type of model using different predictor. So yeah, they can load their data for every month or week, yeah, depend on their situation. Then this model, they choose one of the four model and ensemble to the climate modeling, and then they produce that map result. So we left this to the climate agency. Yeah, that's a very simple early warning system that we developed with our colleague. Now we move to the more on dengue modeling, the transmission using climate factor. The first one, this is forecasting using standard statistical procedure in Malang. This is the dengue. This is the effect of climate variables, all of the climate variables. Then this is Malang, my hometown, the second largest city in East Java, and we have the total resident peoples with density of 6,200 people per kilometer square. And Malang is divided to be 4 sub-district and 57 villages like this. And we have lack of data in 2012. So they put that data in some kind of hard copy. So we should make some translation for hard copy to Excel one by one, and they are missed in one year. So this is the real data. So we cannot we didn't estimate or the average or what. So it is not possible to make just line. So we have two kind of data for Malang. So for the climate, we also stopped in 2012 to transform the data. And our research question is should be how to construct the simple model which accommodates climate variability to forecast dengue outbreak in Malang City based on the local government, and how do spatial analysis about dengue transmission process in Malang City. So our goal is just to given some kind of information based on the existing data that they have. So yeah, we choose ARIMA test for time series model because it's very simple. Then for spatial analysis, we do the semi-variogram and Kriging method to see the the spread of the disease, not using PDA. It's a very challenging one. So this is our algorithm. I think perhaps you already know. Collecting the data, stationary test. If yes, we continue to model identification, calculating of ACF and PICF, and also estimating parameter, and yeah, standard procedure for ARIMA time series model. And if no, we should transform the data and do that loop again. And so this is very standard, basic standard for ARIMA test. Then this also procedure for semi-variogram and Kriging. We collecting the data, stationary test. If yes, we calculating the distance, dividing interval, and then determining point pair, and also using experimental semi-variogram. Then we should choose spherical method or exponential method or Gaussian method. We just plug in the software, and then we get the result. So if the data is not stationary, then we transform. Yeah, we do the similar way. And this is the result of autoregression model. And DT is for natural logarithm of Denki case at time t. And T minus N is the Denki case as time T minus N. S is for monthly minimum temperature. Then K is for monthly humidity at time T minus N. C is for monthly precipitation. So we include all the information of the climate into the model. So we have this kind of result. We compare if only we don't use the non-algorithm, it will be bad result. Then we use the logarithmic equation to give a better result. Then from that equations, we have this result in this table. So from January to December in one year, for example, in 2018, this is the prediction result. We have a forecast model using those autoregressive model and consistent ability to separate month with epidemic and non-epidemic transmission. So model also showed when the peak of dengue epidemic happened for each year, and also data was periodic with period 12 months, so just one peak in one year. Dengue case was high in the beginning of a year, then decrease in the middle, and increase again in the end. So this is the type of Malang data. This behavior followed the climate and weather pattern for Malang city. And how about the spatial transmission? We have the result for semiogram using spherical model, and based on the value of mean square error, the best theoretical, yeah, we choose a spherical model. So this is the interval and also the result of experimental semi-variogram. We also using the surveying Surfer. We use Surfer software, and unfortunately we can embed this kind of Surfer result into Google Map. So just predict the coordinates, which one is it, then we try to give a narration for each sub-district or village in Malang city. So this is the result using Surfer. Then we have this one. So such some area on that spot that have a most frequent urban village with high frequency of dengue fever every year. So Yeah, we do some many approach to some collecting data, but perhaps in the uh, from the view of health department is sort kind trivial result. Most frequent urban village with high frequency of dengue fever every year. Yeah, but yeah, in the sense of scientific backup, we can do some argumentation. Yeah, this is our conclusion for that result. And the second, we compare lowland and highland in Semarang and Malang. We already know the Semarang data in the previous talk, and then Malang is already published in this journal. We have also the climate factor, and then we try to compare these two areas. Semarang placed on the Central Java, and Malang placed in the East Java. So this is Malang, and that is Semarang. In Malang, the temperature, the range temperature between 17 up to 30. In Semarang, 20 up to 35, with annual average also higher in Semarang, hotter. And then we have also different area of Malang and Semarang. The green coverage for Malang is more green than Semarang. We have 18% of total area of green space, but Semarang only have 7.5% of total green area. So with this situation, we want to compare the dengue data for Semarang and Malang. This is observed data, the blue one, for Semarang, and this is for Malang. Unfortunately, we have the lack of data in Malang. So yeah, we separate the analysis for 2010 up to 2011, then 2013 up to 2014 and 15, January 15. So basically almost the end of the 14. Yeah, we use ordinary differential equation, but we try to embed the founding of Thomas Gauss, that he preferred to make mosquito as an equation, as different equation. So we have the coexistent equilibrium of mosquito and replace the mosquito population in our model. So we have this model. We reduce only for infected compartment, and then we have this equilibrium, and this is the epidemic equilibrium, non-trivial equilibrium. So we, what we gonna do is to estimate the force of infection, the beta. So the beta, the force of infection, for example, we will use two methods to compare, using spiral dynamic optimization and also using more easy, the difference equation, to find the force of infection beta. So we have this scheme for spiral dynamic optimization. The preparation, we should generate random points and set, and spiral, we need a rotation angle, radius, and also maximum iteration. Then we setting up the initialization for beta and updating the beta value and beta star, and then we checking the final criterion, then we got the optimized value of beta. This is using the spiral dynamic optimization. And when we use the difference equations, we just difference equation related to differential equation as discrete scheme. So we just plug in the equation into this model. And this is our result. So the first, we use data conversion because Semarang accumulate its 7 days dengue cases to get weekly data, but we have some kind of lost data in Malang, so we transform the data. Then we can compare the two of area. Then we have this one. So this result from spiral dynamic optimization. This is the infection, the blue one is infection rate for Semarang, the red one is for infection rate of Malang. Then if this is the result of force of infection, beta, from optimization method, and in the below, this is the filtered data as a blue dot compared to output in based on these parameters. So we plug in the beta result into the model, and then we fit with the data in the below pictures. So quite nice result for infection rate based on spiral dynamic optimization. And how about the difference equations? We have unfitted result using difference equation. So the above pictures, it's infection rate and for Semarang and Malang from difference equation, and the below pictures is the fitted data between parameters and also the model. And you can see in the last tails there are very different result between the beta and also the data. So we prefer use from spiral dynamic optimization, but that's hard to do because taken so long rather than difference equation. And we also try to put the seasonal infection rate into beta. This is only simulation, so we choose one mode, 1 year only 1 harm, and the 3 modes 1 year contain 3 harms to incorporate the seasonal effect in force of infection. So we just compare the result for Semarang and Malang using one mode, I mean just one period peak in 1 year, and also compare to the 3 mode in a 1 year. So it's more exploration from Malang and Semarang, and we conclude that more hard optimization method will be reach a good result, but it is not easy to do because the spiral dynamic is quite not easy to implement if we want to embed in the climate modeling. And I think this is the last part. Temporal trend and spatial clustering of the dengue fever prevalence in West Java. We use 27 of our province and will be published in Helion, I hope this year. And what we do with this one, we use a very simple approach for temporal and also spatial model. So this is common informations, and this is the data. We only have 1 years. We only study 1 year data for 20. I think 27 27 district and city in West Java. The blue one is for weekly precipitation, and the red one is for confirmed dengue data. So you can see some kind of similar trend. And only 40 weeks, we only have 40 weeks data in 2020. And what we do with this data, first, we want to see the spatial spreading of this dengue. This all the place of our 27 city and district, and we divide into 6 area. So the northwestern part, Bodebek, near Jakarta, in this part, and northern part, Purwasuka, Purwakarta, Subang, in this one, and the third northeastern part, Ciayu Majakuning. Ciayu Majakuning should be in this area, and then southeastern part should be East Parayangan in this place, and also central Priangan including Bandung, and then the last one, southwestern part, West Priangan in this case. So you can see the color represent the density of the case. For example, the white one is only 0 up to 25 per 100 populations, 100,000 population. And then the red one is above 100 per 100% population. So you can see Banjar City is the most highest patient of dengue in the pandemic situation. So after we divide into 6 area, then we choose this one. This is only recharge for temporal model. So we choose this cumulative number of weekly dengue incidents. The K is total numbers of dengue incidents. The R is the cumulative case numbers of growth rate per capita over this wave. And then mu is the cumulative course deviation exponent. And then TI, the point of inflection of the x-axis or turning point. So we just use one hump of recharge curve. And we still develop more than one hump of recharge curve to capture any peak of dengue incidence. So with this easy approximation for temporal, we also choose the easy approximation for spatial analysis. We use a Moran's index to define the possibility of spatial clustering. So we have the G star and also I, the Moran index in this case. So we use a matrix adjacents, and if they have connected, the weight should be 1 and 0 otherwise. And also calculate the G star using the weekly dengue cases. And this statistic value evaluates the degree of spatial co-patterning, the GEO reference, yeah, and features location simultaneously from a local perspective, and then a high G star scores indicate hotspot or area with high dengue infections. By contrast, a cold spot refers to a region with a low G star score, indicating a low number of reported dengue cases. So based on this, we use this kind of definition: low, level 1, if both the target area and all its surrounding snake bursts had a low scores, and level 2, mild, this one, the target area had low score, but some of its neighbors had sporadic high scores. So for example, we choose in the 4 square to be red. Then in the level 3, moderate, the target area had a high score, whereas all its surrounding neighbors had a low score. So this is moderate. only a kind of isolated region. All of its neighborhood should be in blue. And the high level, level 4, either the target had low score, but all its neighborhood had high score, and so its surrounding neighbors also have a sporadic. So kind of isolation, but a very different type of condition. And this is the level 5, the extreme one. Both the target area and all its surrounding had a high score. So all is red. So we begin with the all is blue, and then the high level, the extreme level will be all surrounding by red area. And this is our result for all 27 city and district. We divide into 6 northwestern, northern, and so on. And then we get the case number, the growth rate, and the deviation, and also the T, the turning point. So we can conclude this that the dengue waves turning point in the West Java occurs in the weeks 18 of this turning week. So we can see the turning week. Of January 2020, there are 14 districts and 5 cities, nearly 70% up in West Java province, which had turning point ranging from week 14, the first week of January, to the second week of March. So this is our conclusion for the data. And this turning point range associated with the wettest periods in West Java when average annual rainfall mainly occurs. So we didn't involve any information of the climate, but it comes up from our turning point of the dengue cases. So this is temporal trend. And what about the picture, the graphic? This is the 6, okay. We fit the model using recharts and then the data and almost close. So the fitting result of weekly reported to recharts, yeah, we have that the district of Bogor and city of Bandung have the highest case number of dengue, and that's confirmed. And the district of Sumedang and the city of Banjar have the highest growth rate parameter. So Bogor and Bandung, the highest case number, but Sumedang and Banjar have a very highest potential to spread the dengue cases. The district of Cianjur has the earliest turning point, whereas the city of Cirebon has the latest turning point based on our temporal trend. Result from Richard's curve. And this is the HAM for Bandung, Majalengka, the city of Bekasi, and also Cirebon. And how about spatial clustering? The blue one is for raw data, the red one is for density data, and we use Moran's index value of weekly raw data and density data cases in West Java. And we can conclude that it can be considered that the density data has a lower degree of randomness and show the existence of cluster spatially. So we investigate spatial clustering at a local level using density data based on this Moran index. And this is our result, spatial clustering. We have a ZG score. Hotspot, yellow to red color, should be obtained if ZG star greater than 0.5 standard deviation, and the cold spot, white to blue color, if we have a ZG star less than 0.5 standard deviation. So we have for the first week until the 40 weeks for the all area of West Java have this kind of color. So what we're gonna do, we will analyze the transition, the spatial clustering. Dengue was notably prevalent in those area, northern, southeastern, and central regions during the first 20 weeks of the study periods. In the next 20 weeks, the southeastern regions remain as hotspot, and all of the regions in northeastern regions were identified as a new hotspot. So the central and northern regions become cold spot, although previously being identified as hot. So there are transition between all of the regions during 40 weeks observations data. And we have these transitions. For example, we rely to Hornsby identified 4 distinct patterns of spatial diffusion. The first, expansion diffusion, if the growth of spatial phenomenon which simultaneously widens in every directions. The contagious diffusion, the diffusion process which requires the direct connection with the adjacent regions. And the relocation diffusion, the dispersing process by shifting to a new region. And the last, the hierarchical diffusion, the diffusion pattern of the phenomenon through a hierarchy of location. So for example, in the central regions will be expansion diffusion. We have this kind of the first week, then become this yellow surround by the orange one surrounded by the yellow ones in the second week, in the central region, the expansion diffusion, the first one. And this is for the southeastern region, the expansion diffusion. In the week of 27, Banjar should be very danger in the red. Then in the week of 28, it becomes influence to other regions. So this is expansion diffusion. And how about the southeastern region, contagious diffusion? We have the week 1 in this area, all is in orange, then becomes yellow and also orange, and this is blue, and some become white. So this is contagious diffusion. And the eastern region is also contagious diffusion. This is the week of 39 to the week of 40. We have this one, and still more or less that one, but expand to upper region. And the northeastern region, this is relocation diffusion. They have safe condition, then become orange from the week 9 to week 10. So we do this kind of analysis based on the local government that asks about these situations. So we do all of the regions, the period, the level of the diffusions for week 1 until week 40. We have 6 different area, and we conclude like in this table. So yeah, the northwestern and southwestern regions was considered as safe zone. At least one district in the northern region included in high level in the first 20 weeks, but this region shall allow mid-level in the next 20 weeks. So beginning with the dangerous level, but move to the low mild level in the next 20 weeks. And yeah, the number of high-risk districts in the northeastern region appear to increase in the last 20 weeks. So some kind of shifting level in our 27 district and cities. Yeah, and also this one, the high-risk district or cities in central region in my town were predominantly found during week 1 until week 20. So uh, the first harm should be comes from our area, the most dense area in West Java Central. Yeah, and that's all. We use easy tools, only use recharge for temporal situation, and then using Moran index for spatial uh, situation, then we can give some information to local government or health department. So this is the conclusion you can see in the slide, and I will compress all of my talk and also come out, and we will put some uh, compressed file in Google Doc, and I will share with you uh, if you need it. Uh, yeah, thank you.